Greetings, Mikkel here. Last week I introduced you to this fabulous book, The Short Path to Enlightenment by Paul Brunton, and I promised to come back to it a number of times, reading out a few more things from it, so I want to do that today. I also want to link it into what I talked about a couple of weeks ago in the newsletter, or video newsletter, about waking up. Wake up, what is it going to take? And what it's going to take is that we need to be on a path. We need to be on a path towards where we want to go. Like, you ain't going to get anywhere going to the beach or going up the mountains or going to the supermarket if you don't take a path to get there. Now, we don't have to be on a fixed path, say belong to a religious group or a spiritual group. It doesn't need to be one fixed system that we follow, but we have to be on the path, and the path can then take us to a lot of different places along that journey of awakening. And what Paul Brunton is talking about in a lot in this book is the difference between a long path and a short path. And the reality is, unless you're already fully enlightened, is that you still need to be on that path if you want to awaken. And in the title of this video, it says like the long or the short path. And the reality is, it is not an or, it is an and. We have got to be on both. So when we look at people who have achieved either what we might call full enlightenment or very high levels of enlightenment, we will discover that that moment of shift, when they moved into that place, that always took place in that moment doing the short path stuff or work. However, they all had been on the long path for a long time to get to that place. And that is why we need both. So I have been on a long path for 30 years. And I have many moments where I'm experiencing and using the techniques of the short path to experience those moments of awakening. But I can only do that because I have spent a lot of time on a long path, and I still do stuff on the long path because those two go hand in hand. Let me just read out a little segment from his book today again. If you investigate the matter deeply enough and widely enough, you will find that happiness eludes nearly all men, despite the fact that they are forever seeking it. The fortunate and successful few are those who have stopped seeking with the ego alone and allow the search to be directed inwardly by the higher self. They alone can find a happiness unblemished by defects or deficiencies, as supreme good, which is not a further source of pain or sorrow, but an endless source of satisfaction and peace. So when he talks about here the not seeking with the ego, the language I mostly use here is the operating system. And the other thing here I stumbled a little bit upon when I read it, you probably noticed, it said nearly all men. Because of the time this was written, it was written using that language. But it really has nothing to do with men or women. It is men and women, so human beings. So what is the difference between the long and the short path? Now, that's what this whole book is about. But the essential difference is that the long path is where we do our practice, like our meditation practice, our body awareness practice, of increasing our awareness ongoingly through doing things on a regular basis. The short path is where we do things that brings us in this moment into this presentness of this moment, this very now, right now, not as a practice, but as as like an action that shifts us into this place now, not by practicing over 20 minutes or half an hour, but right now, right in this moment, the place where time actually doesn't exist. So if you want to study a little bit more about Paul Brunson, there's a lot of free stuff online that you can read. Go to paulbrunson.org. I'll put it in with a video here, and there's a lot of good material to be found there. And of course, I can really recommend this book, The Short Path to Enlightenment. So onwards and upwards, stay on the path, even when you fall off, get back on the path of awakening, because really, that is where you want to be. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next week.